Hello everyone, welcome back to the Impact Report. Please subscribe and like my videos to stay updated on the latest developments in world affairs. Today we dive into a topic that's been generating a lot of speculation: Belarus army turning neutral. A nightmare for Russia. For years, Belarus has been Russia's closest ally, often described as the Kremlin's most reliable partner in Eastern Europe. The Belarusian military operates in near total alignment with Russian forces, sharing doctrines, equipment, and even joint command structures in many areas. From the outside, the exterior of this relationship looks unbreakable. Belarus shares a long border with Russia, forming part of the Union State Agreement that binds the two nations economically and militarily. Recent joint exercises like Zapad 2025 demonstrated this seamlessly, with thousands of troops from both countries training together on Belarusian soil, showcasing integrated air defense systems, tank maneuvers, and tactical operations. The Belarusian army openly uses Russian-made weaponry, from T-72 tanks to S-400 missile systems, and hosts Russian tactical nuclear weapons deployed since 2023. Externally, Belarus projects an image of unwavering loyalty, allowing Russian troops to use its territory for logistics, training, and even as a staging ground during the early phases of the Ukraine conflict. Any whisper of neutrality would shatter this facade, exposing Russia to vulnerabilities along its western flank, where Belarus acts as a critical buffer against NATO's eastern members like Poland and the Baltic states. The exterior alignment is so tight that Belarus has adopted military doctrines mirroring Russia's, abandoning any pretense of independent defensive posture. This visible unity reassures Moscow and deters potential adversaries, making the idea of a shift toward neutrality seem not just unlikely but strategically catastrophic for Russian interests. Now, let's look deeper into the interior dynamics, because this is where the real story of Belarusian military loyalty or potential cracks lies, and it's a complex web of political control, economic dependence, and societal pressures that keeps everything in place. Alexander Lukashenko has ruled Belarus since 1994, maintaining an iron grip on power through a highly centralized system where the military and security services are key pillars of his regime. The Belarusian army isn't just a defensive force, it's an extension of the state's repressive apparatus, loyal first and foremost to Lukashenko personally. After the 2020 protests, which saw massive demonstrations against rigged elections, the regime cracked down brutally, and the military played a supporting role in suppressing dissent alongside police and KGB units. Thousands were arrested, opposition leaders exiled or imprisoned, and any hint of disloyalty within the ranks was purged. Lukashenko frequently conducts snap readiness checks, personally overseeing inspections to ensure absolute obedience. The army's officer corps is deeply intertwined with the regime. Promotions depend on political reliability rather than pure merit, and many top generals have close ties to Russian counterparts through joint training programs. Internally, the Belarusian military is heavily reliant on Russian support for everything from spare parts to fuel subsidies, making independence practically impossible. Soldiers' pay and benefits are modest, but the regime uses propaganda to portray service as a patriotic duty in defense against Western aggression. Public opinion in Belarus is suppressed, but anonymous polls suggest a majority of citizens oppose direct involvement in conflicts like Ukraine, preferring to avoid casualties. Yet, the regime ignores this, echoing Russian narratives on state media. Economic integration deepens this. Over 80% of Belarusian enterprises contribute to Russian defense orders, weaving the military-industrial complex into Moscow's war machine. Lukashenko has made concessions to Putin since 2020, recognizing Crimea as Russian and allowing deeper military basing. Any internal push for neutrality would require dismantling this system, risking regime collapse, as the army might fracture if ordered into unpopular fights or if economic lifelines from Russia were cut. Officers know that neutrality could invite Western pressure or internal upheaval, but loyalty to Lukashenko trumps all, reinforced by fear of purges. The interior reality is one of coerced unity. No genuine opposition exists within the military, and societal fatigue from repression keeps potential dissent quiet. Lukashenko occasionally signals neutrality, to the west maintaining some diplomatic ties or delaying full annexation talks. But these are tactical maneuvers to extract concessions from Moscow, not sincere policy shifts. Deep inside, the Belarusian army remains a tool of the regime's survival, tethered to Russia out of necessity, with no viable path to true independence without massive upheaval. Moving on to performance. The Belarusian armed forces have shown solid capabilities in joint operations but limited independent action. With around 65,000 active personnel, including conscripts, the army is well drilled in Soviet-era tactics updated with Russian tech. Performance in exercises like Zapad is impressive on paper. Rapid mobilization, coordinated strikes, and defense against simulated invasions. Belarus maintains mechanized brigades, special forces, and air assets that integrate seamlessly with Russian units. However, it has avoided direct combat in Ukraine, providing rear support instead. Rail networks for troop movements, medical aid for wounded Russian soldiers, and drone production. This cautious performance preserves forces while aiding Moscow, avoiding the heavy losses Russia has suffered. Real-world tests reveal vulnerabilities, outdated equipment in some units, reliance on Russian logistics, and morale issues if deployed offensively. Still, as a defensive force on home soil, it performs reliably, deterring threats through sheer alignment with Russia's larger military. Safety features are perhaps the strongest aspect of Belarus's current setup. Heavily bolstered by Russian guarantees, the deployment of Russian Iskander missiles and tactical nukes provides a nuclear umbrella, deterring any direct attack. Joint regional grouping of forces means Russian troops can reinforce instantly, and shared air defense covers the western approaches. Belarus's new military doctrine emphasizes collective defense under the Union State and CSTO, with automatic Russian support in case of aggression. This layered safety, conventional forces, missiles, nukes, makes Belarus a fortified outpost, enhancing Russia's own security by extending its defensive depth. The unique selling points of Belarus for Russia are irreplaceable: its geographic position as a land bridge to Kaliningrad, a buffer against NATO, and a platform for projecting power into Europe. Belarus offers basing rights without the complications of full annexation, vast training grounds, and a loyal proxy that echoes Kremlin positions internationally. Its military adds depth to Russia's western front without costing Moscow direct control over another territory's internal affairs. The price of this alliance is steep for Belarus. Economic subsidies from Russia keep the regime afloat, but in return, Minsk surrenders sovereignty, integrates economies, and risks isolation from the West. Sanctions bite hard, forcing dependence on Russian markets and energy at discounted rates. For Russia, the price is manageable: financial aid in exchange for strategic dominance. In conclusion, despite occasional rumors or Lukashenko's tactical signaling, the Belarusian army is not turning neutral. It's more integrated than ever with Russia. A genuine shift would indeed be a nightmare for Moscow, losing a key buffer, nuclear forward base, and loyal ally overnight, potentially exposing flanks and complicating defenses. But evidence from joint doctrines, exercises, and deployments shows no such turn. Belarus remains locked in, for better or worse. What do you think? Could anything change this? Comment below, subscribe for more, and we'll see you next time.